Hey everybody, what's going on? You are listening to the Playing On podcast. My name is Carl Markowski, and thank you for joining me. This episode is brought to you by Shock Tech Paintball. If you have not heard of them, you haven't been around. Shock Tech is an awesome autococker manufacturer who has, they kind of took a little hiatus there for a little bit, but back in the day, Aftershock was a big Shock Tech pusher, and now that the mechanical game has kind of renovated itself, Shock Tech has been pumping out hand-assembled markers by the dozens, by the truckloads, if I do say so myself. But they have some awesome designs. They have 5-star designs, 4-star designs, and they're all hot. They have a camo green with black splash. They have acid wash. They have all kinds of stuff. If you check them out, shocktechusa.com, you can find fully assembled markers by Danny Love himself. You can find the gunfighter frames. You can find barrels. You can find regulators. You can find cocking rods. You can find bolts. Anything you need to build your custom, one-of-a-kind autococker, you can find at shocktechusa.com. And if you don't want to build one and you just want one built for you, Danny can do it over at Shock Tech. So make sure you give them a quick look-see and let me know what you think. I think they're pretty slick looking. I'm gonna have to shoot one here in the upcoming 10-mans, but I can't wait, man. These things are so smooth. Especially, I haven't shot one with a gunfighter frame yet, and I've heard a lot of people say that it's a lot easier to shoot an autococker now with that frame. So I'm pretty excited about that. But make sure you guys check them out, shocktechusa.com, and pick yourself up a custom autococker. Thank you, Shock Tech. We are also brought to you by Charm City Paintball. Mike over at Charm City is pumping out some sweet headbands. Right now he has a whole lineup of Gucci headbands. I believe there's like a brown, there's black, there's red. These things are sick, man, and they're limited run right now. So I think he only has maybe let's see, I think he only has maybe five or six of each, maybe even less. So make sure you check him out over on Facebook and Instagram, Charm City Paintball, and check out all of his high quality and just he'll work with you too. If you want some custom headband and headworks done, that could be a thing. Headbands or head wraps, he can help you out. You know, I have an American flag one that I've had tons of compliments on that he did. It's all hand sewn by him in his house, and he's getting bigger and bigger, and it's awesome to see. And I love all of his work. I haven't heard any complaints from it. It's so nice. It's all so awesomely sewn. It's all heavy duty fabric that's gonna hold up, that's gonna last, and that's what you want out of a headband. You want something that you're gonna tie on your head every single weekend that is not going to rip, tear, wear out, anything like that. And Mike he provides that service. Charm City Paintball, Facebook and Instagram, check him out. We are also brought to you by my Patreon. It is patreon.com/theplayingonpodcast. It's a subscription-based platform where if you guys want to help out with me and the podcast and continuing this thing, please go over there, check out the tiers I have. I have different payment tiers, and choose which one is right for you. Any donation is truly I'm truly grateful for anything. You know, I'm trying to grow this thing. I'm trying to get all the equipment that I can. I'm trying to make this thing continue, going from one podcast a week to possibly two, depending on how much time I can put into this thing. And with your help and your subscriptions, I can definitely start being able to do that. So thank you guys. Let me know what you think. This podcast, this episode, is with Nicky Truter. Nicky T, been around the game forever, has seen all kinds of formats, all kinds of players, worked for some of the best companies in the industry, and now he's kind of going off on his own little adventure, and he wants to provide awesome content for not only current players but players coming up, and it's really cool to hear. It's cool to see, and somebody like Nicky that has all the knowledge that that you could need, and that hopefully as a new player you would want, you could find at Nicky's page, and he's creating all that for you. And I'll have all the descriptions, everything we talk about in the podcast, but I will also be sharing with you guys. So without further ado, here is the podcast with Nicky T. Enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, if I don't hear a laundry machine go on at some point during this interview, I'm going to be disappointed. This should be like...
Well, there's a dehumidifier over there that I had to turn off.
It should be just like, oh, hang on a minute, I've got to get the clothes out of the dryer. So, otherwise my wife's going to kill me.
Yeah. Actually, there is a load that needs to be changed out after this, so...
I know how it is.
Yeah.
The reality of professional paintball is like you still have to iron and wash your clothes.
Living the dream, man.
Yeah, this is it. Living everybody else's dream.
I know, right? We're living a dream inside of a dream. That's what I call it.
Yes. Yes, we are.
So how you been, bud?
Good. I mean, it's kind of real interesting times for me in that, I left Eclipse. Not Eclipse, Virtue. I left Virtue yesterday, was my final day. So, and I just kind of...
You just tipped over desks and everything, and you were like, I'm out of here. I'm done.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I can see that coming from you.
So, alcohol-free beer at the desk. So, no, it's just... so I went to South Africa in December, and I was going out there for an event called Super Cup. Going out there to promote Virtue, do all the usual stuff, take a ton of product out for teams, and as you do, right?
Right.
And as I've done for like the past 20 years, and I got on the plane with the mentality of, if I play my cards right and do everything I want to achieve over the next 12 months, I could get myself in a position where I can leave Virtue and do my own thing.
Right.
Which is always the dream. And then by the time I got back on the plane to come home, I was like, in order to do what I want to do, I've actually got to leave. Because, whilst you're working for a manufacturer, there's a lot of comfort in, wage security, use this product, we want you to go here, etc., etc., etc. But it wasn't sufficient freedom or neutrality. Like I could never work for Virtue and review a die rotor, for example.
Yeah.
I can never work for Virtue and review a push goggle, etc., etc. It just doesn't pan out. I could never be a sponsored player from DLX and review a MacDev gun type of thing.
Even though you possibly might might prefer another marker or something like that. It's so tough being a sponsored player in that aspect. I mean,
it is, right? And also, I've probably never seen a review in the past 20 years that isn't from somebody who's affiliated with a manufacturer.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, of course your sponsored loader is awesome. Of course your sponsored goggle never fogs up.
Yeah. Everybody has the best paint in the world. Everybody. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I haven't really shot anything else but Planet Eclipse, but I mean, there's a reason why I shoot the LV series and everything. I mean, it's just, and there's from multiple people that have told me. I mean, it's just, and Planet as a company is great anyway. But it's just that to me, hands down, is one of the best shooting markers. Not being biased now, especially because I have no affiliations with anybody. So
this is the freedom, isn't it? That we probably craved for years. I mean, I this is where you're at now is where I was at 4 years ago, in the sense of I just left Eclipse in November 2014, and I had the pick of the bunch. If I wanted to go through 100 solenoids for my Geo, you could.
Yeah.
And when I say me go through them, if I wanted to ask someone to go through them, I could. And then I went to shoot a MacDev from then, and my mind was blown that actually, there's a lot of other great options out there.
Yeah.
You know, for similar, if not more affordable price points. So yeah, tons of cool stuff. Then, you know, Shot Luxes, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, real interesting times at the minute. It's going to be good, you know. And I think one of the things that the sport needs is somebody who has the ability to say, I like this, and this is why I like it, you know, or I dislike it, and this is my, you know, reasoning. Yeah. And actually have that industry stroke manufacturing background of, you know, this is why I like it, because, you know, this won't break. This will work when, you know, you're playing at 20 degrees or whatever. Yeah. So, you know, none of this, I was paid $1,000 to review this product and it is fantastic. Yeah. Type of thing. Yeah.
You should go the bad guy route. You should be like
100%
super critical. Yeah, you've seen Ratatouille, right?
Yeah.
Right. You should be that food critic where he's just
exactly. Well, this is the thing. Those food critics are paid good money, right. And they always eat. Right?
Exactly. It's a win-win.
It is a win-win. Well, I've just done a post on PB Nation this morning to announce all of my stuff because I have a pretty sweet deal with them where they're going to co-host all of my public content. So all of my reviews will be on their YouTube channel.
Right.
Which is, you know, ridiculous reach, basically.
Are you getting royalties for that?
No.
You're simply getting just the
exposure.
Audience. Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, I'm going to review a MacDev Prime. That's on its way to me currently. Mm-hmm. Now, once I've reviewed it, I'm going to give that away. But you can only win it if you're a patron. So the review will be public.
Are you on Patreon?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I just started that too.
Yeah. So, you know, the review will be public. But it'll be, you know, it'll have links to my Patreon, etc. And, you know, if you want to win this, sign up, you know, support and you're in type of thing.
That's awesome. So, that's actually a really cool idea.
It's one of those things where, like, my Patreon is $5 a month, $4.99 a month. And you get unlimited access. There's no other tiers, you know. Mm-hmm. It's just, this is everything. But it's not just the typical content of, you know, this is how you snap shoot, this is how you run and shoot, all of the stuff that everybody is aware of, and everybody has their own take on it. Mm-hmm. You know, if we were tennis players, we could go to, you know, the Agassi School of Coaching, we could go to the Sampras School of Coaching, and the fundamentals would be similar, but they wouldn't be exactly the same because there's individual takes on, you know, how to do it right, so to speak.
Yep.
And I think paintball is very similar in that regard. How I'm differentiating myself from the norm is there's additional layers. So one of the guys I'm collaborating with is probably best in the world at mental performance coaching. Mm-hmm. So a guy called Henry Hopkin, who works, you know, with Olympic athletes.
That sounds familiar. The name sounds very familiar.
He's the man. He is basically the man. So yeah, he's the Gary V of mental training. So
gotcha.
Yeah, he, you know, and just in the sense of, he's the guy you go to if you want to be the best. Mm-hmm. He's the guy who you say, listen, here's my 10 grand. Let's go. So, you know, but no paintballer can tolerate that expenditure. Yeah. So, you know, in order to make Henry's content, teachings, whatever you want to call it, available to the masses, I need numbers. Right. And with numbers, I can make it affordable. It's that simple. So I've chosen to make it affordable from the get-go and then get the numbers. So...
Well, that's what's awesome about Patreon too, is you can set it up however you want. And you know, I was going back and forth if I wanted to do like one set subscription fee, or if I wanted kind of the tiered thing. And I went more of the tier because I was just like, I'm just give people like options. And
people do like options.
And I was like, I'll write it up. It was kind of a pain in the butt to think about because I was like, what am I gonna say? How am I gonna tier this out? What do I even want to do?
how do you differentiate stuff, and how do
Exactly.
you assign a value to this piece of content, that piece of content, etc.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what's cool is that we're not relying on our sponsors or certain manufacturers or anything like that. We're actually relying on people who enjoy our content, and I think that's what I like most about Patreon, is because I've had multiple people come up and go, dude, why don't you have a Patreon? I would love to help you out. I would love to contribute to your content, but and I eventually got off my butt.
You should always take a picture of their credit card at that stage.
I was like, I have a perfect way for you to contribute.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, see that wallet in your pocket?
There you go. But it's great because players, and you're obviously you're a former player, but you've been in the industry for a while.
Sure.
We don't. It's weird because obviously we do play for free, but we do have expenditures. We do have things that we have to pay for and that we sacrifice. And how I was kind of helping balance that was the podcast. Because there was some ad revenue. It wasn't crazy by any means, but it was something. But it was cool too. Kind of what we were talking about before was this was my level playing field. As a player when I was still playing last year, I can say now. It was
true.
Yeah, I when I did the podcast, I was like, the podcast is a separate entity from who I am as a sponsored player. I mean,
even then though, that's quite a difficult stance to nurture, because whilst it is a separate entity in many senses, there's still a crossover. You're still Carl Markowski.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, in some people's eyes, it's easy to separate that. In others, it's like, you're still the same guy who I'm sponsoring with this gun.
Right.
So why are you talking about that other gun, for example?
Right.
You're still the same guy who I sponsor with, 200 cases of paint a year. So what are we doing on a Pro Shaft factory tour, Carl?
Right.
So,
but that comes down to politics, where it's like, okay, are you a sponsored player, as in, are you contractually obligated to those manufacturers, or are you contractually obligated to the team, or is the team that you play for contractually obligated to the manufacturers? And that's where it's such a gray area with paintball.
Oh, it's the greyest of grey, because you're actually a victim of making yourself marketable in that sense. As Carl Markowski from Aftershock, you're one of the better known players. I honestly, and this is no disrespect to anyone, would struggle to name the Aftershock roster from 2018 in its entirety.
Right.
I wouldn't even get close.
We went through a few guys, and some stuck around and everything, but they're so new. I mean, they were still potential was I think there 100%, but it was just they're so new.
They are so
to that level,
and it's like, yes, and that's that's a huge part of it. When you look at these kind of high level pro movements in the off season, is 99% established player goes from established team to established team.
Right.
It's very rarely new guy comes in. So even Impact picking up the DMG player.
Yeah.
They still had a year to kind of blood himself in the pro ranks, and the exposure of training against Impact all season as well. So
exactly.
It's far from green.
Yeah.
So it's going back to the days when I was a pro sponsored player, the amount of money I made was ever. It just cost me less.
Right.
So, it's and I'm very grateful for that, because we traveled the world and did a lot of cool stuff with a lot of cool people. But the reality is, we're not cashing 100 grand paychecks to use equipment.
No, and I think we were always trying to figure out a way to make that happen, in a sense. You know what I mean? It's always like we're grateful for where we are, but because we're not making the money that we feel that we could, we're always trying to find that opportunity and that door to open up. Not that we're always searching like behind people's backs.
Yeah.
I don't want it to seem like that, but it's like you're always just looking for that next opportunity to of who you know
100%.
or something like that.
And there was almost a collective pride when Ollie got his $100,000 3-year deal from Dye,
Right.
And every pro player out there just went, that legitimizes us collectively.
That it could happen.
Yeah, that it could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, sports version of the lottery. So
right, and well, it's the dream, right? The dream is to
Yeah.
to play professionally and get paid, like play professionally.
Yeah.
And in the whole word and the whole essence of what that means is what that move meant for Oliver. And there's always such backlash. It's always like, oh, he doesn't deserve. There's this whole that paintball players don't deserve it. It's only a hobby, this and that. But I mean, there's millions of dollars going back and forth between this. There's money being made, and if we can figure out a way to contribute or have the trickle down effect to the players, the ones who actually play it, instead of being like, you should be grateful that you're even playing for free, and that's why you're on a professional team. It's like,
I mean, if a guy gets paid to go fishing, there's no reason in this world why people can't get paid to play paint.
Dude, I don't even want to start on this whole
It's
thing. I especially with,
it's great.
Oh my God, people get paid to. Well, look at it. People get paid to eat food, like critics, they get paid
Back to Ratatouille. I love it.
Or to watch a movie. Somebody gets paid to go watch a movie and then tell you what they like or don't like about it, and then people take their word for it and might not go see a movie, or they do go see it based on somebody else's opinion, which is kind of segues into like how Brad from Paintball Ruined My Life.
Yeah.
I had a podcast with him, and I was kind of talking back and forth about it. I was like, do you ever get tired of the same old questions all the time because you review stuff where it's like, should I get this or should I get that? When it really comes down to kind of like, it's really whatever you want. I mean, because it's always kind of the same question. It's whatever your personal preference is. I don't know. And he's like, actually, I kind of like it. I was like, man, I would go crazy because it's really, because I would just keep telling people, just try one out. And if you like it, keep it. If you don't, but it's really comes down to personal preference.
I think that Brad does a great job, actually. I think he's actually enjoyable to watch. Right. Which is the biggest hurdle, I think. So yeah, he's doing a good job, and I'm pleased because there was a time when he thought he might have to quit and get a real job.
And I don't know all the details of that.
Me neither, but I'm pleased he's still around because I think it's good. So I think
he's made a name
really
for
good.
himself.
Yeah, absolutely. And there really is a void in the sport at the moment for content. There's no authentic content, in my opinion, in the sense of, there's content you can pay for, and there's content that is paid for, in the sense of, let's review this as a sponsored player, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We've all seen, the new gun comes out, sponsored team does, a little feature on it, efficiency test, whatever, way more accurate than my previous version of whatever this is type of thing. And it's just, it's unfair. It portrays the product in the wrong light, in my opinion. Right. So one of the things I want to do when I review a product is, yes, I'll shoot it. Yes, I'll use it, but I'll also give it to a random selection of people to use on, test days. Right. So that they can, hey, Mr. Paintballer who has played a month, tell me what you think of this. Don't worry about the price, but tell me what you like and what you dislike, and just give me a feedback of, is it comfortable? Did it perform how you expected? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
An honest opinion.
Yeah. And if it's a gun and it leaks out of the box, you should say and be able to say, this leaked out of the box, right? And this was the reason why. So, if it's goggles and they fog up, if it's a loader and it jams, etc., if it's paint and it was too fragile, or whatever, Yeah, there just needs to be some actual kind of integrity.
So what do
in
you
the
think
whole
would be
thing.
what do you think would be a more honest opinion? Somebody who has a seasoned player who has played, who can maybe tell the difference between fragile paint and stuff like that. Like let's say you give a new player a brand new setup, right?
Yeah.
And then you give somebody
Yeah.
who's played, let's say 4 or 5 years, a brand new setup. Who do you think would
Yeah.
give the more honest opinion on product? Even let's say if the seasoned player was not sponsored, right?
I think I don't think either would give the best. I think it's a combination of the two and everything in between that's going to give the best. In
I
the
think so,
sense
too.
of, if you gave Agassi a frying pan and said, "I want you to return serve," he'd get that ball back. You know, in joking aside, you know, that tennis ball will come back.
Oh,
It
yeah.
might not come back every time as accurately as he could with the racket, but
Yeah.
you'd get balls back at you. You know, if I give you a tipman, you're still going to go and shoot people. So I actually played rental with a tipman on Thursday, and it was so much fun. Much fun.
I've had my days. Like, I enjoyed playing for Tipman, but I can't, especially with mechanical markers nowadays. Like, if I'm gonna go shoot mechanical, I'm sorry, Tipman, but I'm going to go. I enjoy the, not to do it like a plug or anything, but the EMEC that Planet has, like that.
Bang for buck is
Dude,
right
that
up
put
there,
the
isn't
fun back into paintball
Yeah.
for me, shooting like of what it felt like when I first started playing with a 98.
And exactly right. And I mean, we were playing a walk-on day on Thursday down at Jed's place in Birmingham, MPF, and you were doing back-to-back games. You know, play from one end, turn it around, play from the other end. And a kid's tipman just ran out of gas after the first game, so I just gave him my shocker and said, "Here, you shoot that, and I'll shoot your tipman."
So
And
it
just
did
went
the
out
whole.
and played. Oh, it's great. I'm machine gunned for a good.
How can
10
I make
seconds.
it do that all the time?
So it was
Suck it.
awesome. It was awesome. But, you know, and I even did the stereotypical gun over the head, shoot a ref. So all good fun. So, you know, and it was just kind of, as you rightly say, it put the enjoyment back. It makes you, it makes you appreciate what you have in terms of equipment and, you know, the luxury of shooting good paint, etc. But it was also so much fun.
Right.
You know, gravity fed loader, Tipman rental, literally with, you know, 1,000 psi, and go how to make it happen.
Yeah.
So, you know, in terms of getting back to the original question of, you know, the reviewing and stuff, I think you need a real rounded opinion. You know, you give us any paintball product in the world and we'll make it work to the point where we go out there and we have an effect on that point, on that game, whatever the scenario is. But it needs to be, in my opinion, you need to have a review of, you know, this gun is super cool in this scenario. You know, this feature works in this scenario. I mean, my eyes were, as crazy as this probably sounds, my eyes were completely opened to the limitations of packs playing a walk-on day. You know, those pots are precious. You know, every time I reloaded, I would literally, you'd have to put that pot back because I'm not trudging through acres of woodland to find those guys.
Yeah.
So, you know, but it's kind of, we never think of the ease of putting that pot back. It's just, you know, this is a one way. Yeah, fill and throw. So there was no little dude running around picking them up after me.
Yeah. No.
So,
No.
you know, maybe that's a market. So he wants to be a scenario pot runner.
That brings me to kind of another part is obviously you've heard about the NPL and kind of what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do there. You know, if we've had, so that's kind of what that's going to be our take on how we want the public to finally, hopefully, see paintball and recognize paintball as a professional sport and stop hearing you can do that professionally. We want to try and alleviate that question, right? We want to kind of join the two worlds of people who don't know about paintball and obviously the paintball world.
So like the kind of the 60 odd billion.
Oh, the everybody
like
else.
Just kind of like,
and just smash the two worlds together and use any kind of media platform to be able to effectively do that. But what I've kind of come to, what's come to my attention is that, there's been a lot of players who have said, well, what you have to do is you got to get rid of what we play now, and what we play now is going to be that's not true paintball and this and that, and what we need to go back, we need to go to 5 balls a second, we need to go to mechanical markers, and I thought about that, and I'm like, okay, well, if we go back to that, I feel like we're going backwards. Yeah. Obviously, it's fun, it's great, it's a great time, I have a blast doing it, but that isn't what we have evolved to as what paintball is, right? No. And I think even though that might be more fun for us and maybe even easier for people to watch in some aspect, it's still gonna at its base we still need to explain the sport, and I think we would do the same if we had 15 balls a second capped semi-auto. I think it would be the same world. I think people would, and people are coming, what are you talking about? Even 5 balls a second mechanical is gonna be way, like, people are gonna get shot either way. Right, people are going to be able to hold a lane or not hold a lane.
Let's draw a quick comparison to motorsport, for example. Mm-hmm. So Formula One, the most expensive, highest performing equipment out there by a country mile. Yeah, I've never seen Lewis Hamilton change a tire on his car, ever. Yeah,
maybe he does at home.
Maybe he does, right? Maybe he does, but let's assume that there's probably 20 people before him in the queue. I don't want to see Tyler Harmon squeegee his barrel in between points. I want to see him give that to someone. If that's the professional, I want to see them hand their stuff to their pit crew and get it serviced so that, the reality of the situation is, what's going through the athlete's head.
Right.
Don't take up I would be a selfish viewer in the sense of, I don't want to see, them struggling with that, whatever that is, whether it's, broken paint, broken equipment, etc., etc., etc. I just want to see that dealt with by someone who's paid to deal with it, to legitimize the professionalism. I want to see the emotion of the athletes, though. I want to see the frustration of, why am I getting shot off the brake like a donkey 4 points in a row? Yeah. How do I fix this? I want to see them being grilled by the coach. This is Todd Martinez prime time.
Yeah.
In to my mind, this is
or any professional
Martinez
sports
against Martinez versus Glaze.
Mm-hmm.
Title fight is not just Dynasty Iron Men.
Yeah,
it's huge, and I think the platform that the MPL creates is fantastic because it comes in at a tangent. It comes in with the ability to edit to a highlight reel rather than just have live, and not that live is mundane,
right,
but live is diluted. Edited gives you the opportunity to tell the story in the way that you want to tell the story. Now, and this isn't saying, falsifying the turn of events, but just have the luxury of capturing the emotion and showing the emotion in relation to the actual, on-field. Marry the off-field and the on-field, because I think that's what's missed. And with the greatest will in the world, the NXL World Cup just gone was probably some of the best paintball I've witnessed live in the past 20 years.
Right.
When you only have 2 minutes to appreciate the emotion between points, even if you're in the pits, you don't capture everything. And that's the chink in the armor, so to speak, of telling that story. And it excites me that something like the MPL can actually overcome that, because there's nothing stopping you having 4 cameras in each pit. There's nothing stopping you having players mic'd up. Mm-hmm. I'm all for them cussing each other out and it being raw emotion.
True to form.
That then gets, absolutely. Yeah. We know that they're mad with themselves when they miss a shot that they should have taken, we know that they're mad with themselves when they mess up and they make a move that they shouldn't have moved, that they shouldn't have done,
Yep.
or at the time that, you know, they thought they could do it and they get punished, you know?
Mm-hmm.
There's not always that level of accountability when it is live, because too much happens. So yeah, I think it's fantastic for the sport. I think you're gonna see who actually performs out there rather than just assume who performs, which is what excites me. I think, you know, the cream will rise to the top. So it's super exciting times.
Yeah, it's going to be all those small, minuscule shots that are so nuanced that people don't get to notice. That the shots that I look for, that I try to pull off, and sometimes do, and then I go back and I watch it, and people are like, "Well, and there goes so and so." Not sure where he got shot from, but he's walking off.
That must have been a bounce shot.
That's not a bounce shot. I shot that guy through this crack like this right here with one ball.
What would be super cool from my perspective as well is, you know, I kind of like, say I watch football, real football, not your padded stuff. The, you know, what you guys
I'm not a fan of football.
Affectionately call. Oh,
not hurting my feelings.
No, me neither. I'm soccer all the way. So, like, say I watch football. So today, New Year's Day, there's some big matches in the Premier League, but the stats you get will be, you know, kind of this player made this many passes with this much, you know, this completion rate. Yeah. Same as you would get in American football, right? But you actually have that appreciation of, holy cow, in 90 minutes, that guy made, you know, 190 passes or whatever it is.
Right.
You know, I'd almost like to see, and this is without knowing anything that you guys are planning for the MPL, but let's say, you know, you play the MPL, you have a jersey that has like a tracker in it. So you can capture all the player movement, you know, this guy's run, you know, 890 yards in this match, and this guy's run 53 yards. Or what's the 53-yard guy doing?
Yeah.
So
the technology's there.
The technology is completely there, especially if, you know, you could grid. I know that the technology exists to grid that area and, you know, and add some accountability or some statistics to, you know, this is the work rate for this guy, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, back in the old days when Virtue did the ROF chips in the guns, you know, there were some awesome stats of, you know, this player shot this much paint, et cetera, et cetera. You know, and it wasn't without its faults or its hurdles to overcome. And I'm not saying that, but I think, you know, we have the opportunity to take quite an idealistic viewpoint now, and almost say, you know, hey, in an ideal scenario, what's everything we'd like? You know, let's get it on the list.
Yeah.
And let's see how many of those things we can actually make happen. So,
we've actually looked at software and researched software that does live motion tracking that will track your speed, your velocity, everything. And we're working with a company, Bright Cove, who Matt is probably going to correct me on that, but I think they're the ones that we're mainly going to be working with. I don't know if they do that software or not. It might be another company, but we're looking into all that stuff, and that kind of segues.
That'd be awesome.
That segues into this post that I had like a week ago that kind of got some traction, and I was talking about getting rid of ramping and how I feel that has. I saw. I feel like I haven't been able to come on and really explain myself because it kind of got out of hand, and everybody was like, "Whoa, uncapped to this," and I was like, "Where did you get uncapped?" I didn't say anything about uncapped. All I said was get rid of ramping. That's all, because I feel like it's, you know.
Well, I think your post got traction initially because you kept it to one sentence.
Yeah.
You know, and as crazy as that sounds, that's attention span territory. You know, and it wasn't an elaborate post about why. It was just a one sentence statement of, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this, please? Thank you.
Yeah, And it's not like I'm asking anybody to do it, because we're obviously going to do that. But
or to give you like $100 to do it.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Well, and my whole reasoning behind it was that I truly feel that ramping has hindered us and hindered players and given them this false sense of ability more than it has helped anybody. I feel players coming up, and I feel like yes.
Question for you.
Right.
Has ramping hindered? Which has hindered the most? Ramping or pre-published field layouts? If you could get rid of one, what would you get rid of?
It can't be both. It can't be both.
Because both would change the game.
Welcome to the NPL.
For the better. Oh, it's almost like, I mean, this isn't even pre-rehearsed, is it? But, this is like ramping versus predetermined field layouts. Mm-hmm. I would get rid of the field layouts first, personally, because I want people to think. You can still have a machine gun, but if you can't think, you're not enjoying paintball, in my opinion.
So it depends on who you're talking, who you're trying to help out, for as far as the fields go. I think the fields would make it more interesting, even if you still had ramping, would make it more interesting watching professional players. But I think if you get rid of, I don't think getting rid of fields would affect the players, the divisional players coming up. I think, I mean, I guess it kind of would if they play tournaments, it would. But I think ramping in and of itself is, everybody says, well, if everybody's on the same playing field. That's not the fucking case. That's what pisses me off so much, is because there should not be a level playing field. When you play a professional sport, it is not T-ball. It is not fucking T-ball. Not everybody can hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. And if
they can't?
No, right?
Oh.
And then when people say, "Oh, well, when twiddling your fingers, that's not a skill. That's not a skill." No, you don't think it's a skill because you can't do it. And then they revert to, well, you have cheater boards. Fuck off. I've never used a cheater board in my life, and just because maybe a majority of people did because they didn't take the time because they were lazy to do this thing, now you can throw it off as not being a skill. But when it comes down to it, and you go back to semi-auto, and you have guys that cannot shoot for shit left-handed, or even the same right-handed in semi-auto, you're not going to be able to hold lanes. You're not going to be able to hold guys in. There's going to be moves being made. And I think it's going to change the game completely, and especially now. And that segues into Virtue, that segues into Planet and everything. We have the ability to do that now. If we had the ability back then to be able to control that, we have more than the ability to do that now. And if we can get companies on our side, and even guys who are in the tech world and the software world to be on our side, meaning, hey, figure out a way to try and cheat the system and be compensated for it. Help us out. You know what I mean? And let's make the penalties more than not worth it to even try and cheat in the league, because you're really just going to be cheating yourself and your team, because it's going to be ungodly if we catch you cheating. And
exactly.
And why I'm so set on doing that is because I feel like individual skill sets need to be brought back, and I feel like just being able to snap shoot with a machine gun is not a skill set. It is not a skill set. I saw a video back before World Cup, and it made me sick. There was a guy in a corner, and he's snap shooting down the side, and he's loading, and he's doing this, and he's one finger, and he's doing this, and then he comes in, and he's looking on the inside, and he does this down the tape, and I'm like, and the kid probably looked like he was early 20s,
Bruno. Yeah.
Well, no. Well, it's just it frustrates me, because then people think that they're good, and handing them a machine gun like that, or a tournament marker in a box, and they can just take it out, and then they think they're this player who can dominate everybody because you can maintain 5 balls a second, which ends up shooting 10.5 or whatever the fuck it is. Half a ball a second is stupid. I don't even know why we say that shit. I know it's probably something to do with the milliseconds you pull the trigger. I just say 15 balls a second. Say this. But anyway, that's my rant. My point is that The NPL, I would really like to see 15 balls a second, semi-auto, work with the companies to be able to find the guys who are going to try and cheat, because obviously we know that it's going to happen. But
100%.
if we can alleviate that, and if we can bring back that skill set, because not 90% of everybody out there is not going to be able to maintain 15 balls a second like they can shooting a ramping marker 10.5. And then another argument is that well, you're going to shoot more paint when you shoot semi-auto. I guarantee you that teams right now shoot more paint shooting ramping than they would shooting semi-auto. I guarantee you, for the simple fact that it is easier to maintain 10.5 or 2 or whatever balls a second, and easier to do that than it is to maintain a lane of 15 balls a second. You say 15 balls a second capped, but you are not going to be able to do that, and I can guarantee it. And just for that simple thing, I think there's this whole falsified thing that people think they're going to shoot more paint because it's capped semi. You're shooting a ramping marker that will, within 5 pulls, will maintain 10.2 balls a second.
Oh yeah, it's like my 9-year-old can shoot ramp
right
for as long as he wants. My 6-year-old can as well.
It frustrated me, and I know I'm going on this whole rant, but I didn't respond to anybody on that post.
No, this is great.
I didn't respond to anybody because I wanted to do this in a podcast or something else to be able to explain myself. And everybody's gonna say, well, it's not a skill and this and that. I was like, okay, well, how about this? Go on the field against somebody who can really truly shoot their marker really well, and you do your 10.2 maintain balls a second, and good luck, because the skill set player, I feel, is going to come out on top, and it's going to be more disciplined, I feel.
Is there going to be accurate. I hope in the NPL that aside from the matches, the games, whatever the format you guys decide, I hope that there's going to be some random kind of challenge-orientated stuff for the players. So, for example, there should be an all-out speed test. Mm-hmm. So you go semi-auto uncapped, I want to know who's the fastest player in the league. Not just on their feet, but, actually with their fingers. Mm-hmm. So, who peaks at 18 a second or whatever, right?
Right.
I want to see that speed test of, sprinting, but not just, here you go, 2 guys on a track, let's go. 2 guys kitted out, 4 pots, let's go.
I like game speed. I never liked to race. I never liked to race, but I feel like I was faster. I never saw you
race. I mean, I've never seen you run.
I seldom did it. Yeah.
Just glide. Yeah.
But I did feel like I was faster on the field than actual racing.
It's just a jog. Well, the funny thing is, right, you probably were faster on the field because people are shooting at you.
Right, I had to get away from
Nobody runs slow in that situation. Yeah. This is like of course he's fast when people are shooting at him. Mm-hmm. Jogging around the park, he's taking it easy. He's looking at dogs,
Well, I hated racing, so I'm doing something that I did not like, I didn't enjoy, I didn't like doing.
Exactly.
I just did because people came up and they challenged me or whatever. But when I'm on the field, that's something I love doing. So if I want to get to A to B quickly. I prefer
it when you shoot at me.
Exactly.
Let's go.
Right. And
then we're talking. Now that's a race.
But I mean,
that's to the 50.
That's going to be something that we're going to kind of focus on too. Is we're going to have those little and with the technology and be able to track guys like that. I think we're going to be able to bring those more of those
that type of exposure of this is the skill set within the sport. I think that would be huge as a platform for encouraging kids to aspire to greatness, because that's what, and I say kid not just in the literal sense of young person, but there's a lot of paintball kids out there who've only been playing a year, 3 years, 5 years,
right? What if we could give you? I mean, what if there was something as simple as being able to give you a statistic of knowing a guy is right-handed or left-handed, right? Simple stat, right?
Yeah.
But let's say we can give you a percentage of how many more people he shoots left or right-handed. I mean, that's a pretty cool little statistic to be able to know, right? And
absolutely.
And watch a guy, play off-handed, like, and he, so and so is off-handed on this slide. He might have, and knowing the other guy is possibly on his on hand
Yeah.
his, you know, so it's kind of, you have those kind of stats
Should
to
be
throw around
bonus
too.
points for, you know, offhand against on-hand.
So, well, I think what we can do is we can bring up, you know how the PBA used to bring up those bar graphs of each team, of their strengths and weaknesses or whatever. Let's say we bring that to individual players. You know, we say offhand kill, you know,
cool.
Offhand eliminations, on-hand eliminations, or standard hand eliminations or whatever.
Yeah, and it should almost be like you know, I'd love to see the kind of Spicker versus Short matchup. You know, this is the snakes battle for this match, you know. And the Spicker shot Short in the face 4 times.
And this is all pre or post show, can be done, has some time in between, more time in between points or matches or whatever, that we can talk about and build the narrative.
Well, that player can even narrate it. You know, both of those players can give you, you know, their first person perspective of, you know, hey, this is exactly what happened. You know, I didn't know he was there, or, you know, I knew he was there. I knew he was shooting in field, so I made that bump, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So, wow, exciting.
Yeah, and I think it truly is, and I think we're going to bring, you know, that different perspective to the game, to, you know, be able to explain it a little bit better, or have people follow it a little bit more, who aren't just normal everyday players, but people coming up. And I don't think we can't lose the NXL. We can't lose Go Sport. You know, we're not trying to overthrow anybody. No. We're just trying to do something in our own way. And, you know, we're just trying to show what we think paintball could be. And, you know, if people like it, they like it. And you know, our goal is to grow with the sport.
Well, presumably we're going to see a lot of NXL players play in the MPL as well. Yeah, part of me kind of hopes that we actually see them playing different teams in the MPL. Ooh. I would, you know.
Well, I don't know. See, I don't know, like, you know how we were talking about sponsorship crossover, so I don't know how much that would affect everything.
It would. People would lose their minds, because, you know, how can this guy who gets given this free product use another free product? You know, that would be yeah, and that's the kind of travesty of the situation, of the lack of you know, development of this industry in sport. Right. You know, you're right, it goes full circle back to, you know, am I Carl Markowski, the sponsored player, or am I an Aftershock player, the sponsored player? Right. You know? So
yeah, and bringing it back to that individual player aspect of it too. So when you register, when you get to the event, this is an NPL thing, but if you get to the event and you register as a player and as a team as a whole, you're not registering, but you're checking in. But then you check in as an individual player. You're gonna check in with a marker. And that marker will be assigned to you, because it's obviously your marker, but the serial number, everything will be taken down, and we're still trying to figure out the exact details. But if this is another way to try to alleviate, you know, cheating markers and everything, is you're going to be assigned to that marker, and if anything happens to that marker, where you are responsible for it, and then you on the team are responsible for, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
theoretically, you could have an issue with your marker where, let's say it's a hot gun, and it couldn't be turned down. You'd have to play without a marker, theoretically.
So that if it can't be turned down, obviously we are hoping to have support from Die, from Planet, to be able to have techs on site, to be able to switch out a reg if need be. We're not necessarily worried about people. Well, I guess.
Or is it more a case of if that marker was, let's say, caught with an illegal mode?
That's more of kind of what we're doing. But I mean, that brings up a good point. But maybe that's kind of a, you know, hopefully everybody hangs on to maybe 2 markers or something like that, to be able to have that and bring that with them. I feel like paintball players are so unprepared anyway. So
would you allow that? You can have, you know, this is my number 1 gun. This is my backup gun. Because I think that's actually a pretty neat statement to make from the get-go. Yeah. Of you need 2 markers. If you're a 1 marker guy, the MPL is not for you, sir or ma'am.
Right, and I rode that line, but I mean, it also comes down to where you know, you say like a hot gun, and then you get handed another one that goes out, the player that hands that other player that marker is still responsible for that marker. So if you know what I mean, so it's kind of one of those things where it's like if you're trying to cheat as an individual player, that marker that maybe that player you handed your marker is cheat. It goes back to you. So if you're trying to manipulate the system, it's not good. It's not good. And I feel like having capped 15 or 12 or whatever we're gonna do, we have that cap where it's not. We have a ceiling where we can go, okay, cool. That doesn't sound like 15, right?
I like that.
And we can even slow it down in real time if we need to go back to a camera in slow motion and capture, and we're capturing 20, 18, 21, something like that. We're like, okay, we know, something's up, and but I think like not having layouts come out. I think having capped semi, it's all going to bring the fun and the creativity back to the player. And I think newer tournament players coming up, they're going to have to learn like how we did. They're gonna rely more on accuracy than accuracy by volume. And
I like it. You're going to have things like transfer windows for teams, franchises, etc.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Physios?
What's a physio?
Like a physiotherapist. So, we need all of this stuff, So,
well, I mean, we're just starting out.
Fully legitimized. Get physios from the get-go.
We're trying to figure everything out. We're talking to GoPro, we're talking to Sony, we're talking to Amazon, we're talking to multiple companies that obviously are a lot bigger than the paintball world, and really trying to figure out what they need from us to be able to maybe adapt to their audience.
I mean, that's interesting. I mean, just that statement alone, the GoPros, the Sonys, the Amazons, aside from the equipment that they make and its use to you guys, it's the market. Amazon Prime and their homegrown video content, they do exposure on sports teams, etc. This could be huge, right?
Who knows? It could be a Netflix deal in the future where we sell to Netflix or something like that. I mean, it's crazy ideas, but the thing is that you can't.
It's not crazy.
Well,
I mean, Netflix exists.
There's been a ton of people who have cut out our knees from underneath us and be like, it's not going to work. This has been tried before. Correct. This and that. I was like, okay, I understand that. I understand people have tried different things, but if we don't continually try to progress, and we are just content on whatever this is, there will be no progression. There has to be somebody trying to do something in a different way to not only compete with, even though I say we're not competing with the NXL, but competition-wise, it makes each entity better.
Yeah, I mean, the crazy reality of this sport is the NXLs, the MPLs, the, whatever tournament series in the world, if you put them all together, that's 0.0001% of people who play paintball.
Right, exactly.
Crazy. In the sense of PB Nation's YouTube channel, 240,000 subscribers, over 1 million views a month. That's mainstream.
Right.
Everything else is nowhere near. Is the reality at the moment. And it's kind of the comfort zone is the killer. Everybody is comfortable competing at similar venues, similar organizations, similar formats, similar pricing, etc. And there needs to be change is good. Change isn't always good, but the desire to change and evolve is good. Yeah. You have to want to move out of your comfort zone. I mean, I'm kind of, I'm in that phase where I could be eating pot noodles in 12 months if things don't go to plan. This could be the last time I do an inside broadcast. Who knows?
I haven't quit my day job because of the NPL or anything like that. So there's no promises.
See, I have quit mine, which is as scary as it is exhilarating. But I feel that this is this is the right move for me at this time, and this is going to force me to do things right.
Right.
Because if I don't, no bueno.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the thing that excites me is that already, and we're literally January the 1st, right? Already I'm reaching players who I would never have had that exposure with in the past.
Right.
And that's from within the industry, which is the scary, crazy thing. 2 walk-on events over the Christmas period that I played, I met more people then in those 2 days than I have in the past year.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody I've seen in the past year are people I've already known.
Yeah.
So, for decades. And we're very insular in the tournament sense. I think one of the super cool things that could happen from the NPL is almost, I don't know the time spans involved, but let's say, 2019 is a test of how do we make this right in terms of packaging a product that we can go to a Netflix or an Amazon Prime, etc., and say, here you are, here is content that you desire. Let's say there was scouting for 2020, and we had an unknown kid from wherever, from the Netherlands, let's say, so it's not US based, who just decides, hey, I want to make a name for myself. I've seen this, I've watched this, and that's what I want to do. So a Maddie Kling type of scenario for Dynasty. So he wanted to make it happen and flew to Florida, did the combine, etc. Got picked up.
Yeah.
So
and we want the NPL. And we want the NPL to be somewhat exclusive. It's kind of, we want it to almost be kind of one of those clubs where it's like you have to be a professional player and team to eventually play on the NPL field. Kind of a deal where it's aspired to be on that field or be a player in the NPL.
Whilst I like that, my fear of that is that we're too insular currently. In that,
right.
There's a lot of pro teams and players who have bought spots, and shouldn't necessarily be there, in my opinion. There's a lot of very professional players and teams, but I think if we're brutally honest, which teams run like professional teams, it's a handful.
Right.
So, there are the dynasties, there are the impacts, there are the heats. Aside from those 3, I think most other professional teams are playing catch up.
Yeah.
Our elevation in the same league, in the sense of infrastructure for that team, probably not. Are DMG in the same league? Probably not. But, they at least have the background and the input from Impact being, so close.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot of stuff. I like the exclusivity, so long as, you work hard and you put in the effort, you can get there. Yeah. That's the caveat for me.
Yep.
So, but no, super exciting times all round.
Yeah.
I think this is going to make a lot of people kind of sit back. I hope this is going to make a lot of people sit back and just think, man, I want to make that happen, and just go out there and do it, and it's either pushing your team, pushing yourself, or both of those things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it needs to happen. I think we've given up on, everybody's like, well, we need to get it on TV. I was like, obviously that's not our goal, is TV anymore, because there's so many different platforms now. There's live, there's Twitch, there's YouTube, there's so many different ways to portray what we have. And it's the same thing with getting outside sponsorships. I mean, we have been right now, and obviously there's people in the industry that we've tried this and we've tried that and we're just doing this circle inside the industry of eating ourselves and shitting ourselves out, and eating ourselves and shitting ourselves out, when I feel like we truly need to spread our wings and our feelers and be able to. People are interested. Companies are interested. Manufacturers are interested in finding new ways to promote their product in the same essence as we are with ours.
I think there's a lot of lazy entities in this industry who are quite happy coasting. I think there's a lot of personnel who have held positions for considerable periods of time, and they don't really push to evolve. They're just comfortable.
Right.
This is paycheck comes in, I go to the same 10 events, etc., right?
Yeah.
I see very few people pushing for change and pushing to develop or pushing into even different markets, right? And it's crazy. It's crazy how much opportunity is out there and how much potential is out there. I think some manufacturers are very conscientious and try and grow stuff. I think some employees are very conscientious, but I think the majority aren't, in both senses.
Yeah.
So, the industry is kind of, in my opinion, a self-fulfilling prophecy of nothing will change unless people, either we get new blood into the industry, and that new blood comes in the form of companies, tournament series, manufacturers, teams as well, teams and players. If you suddenly, if a whole new team rocked up, and took the NXL by storm, everybody's going to sit up and take notice.
Right.
They could have their own gun, they could have their own jerseys, they could do whatever, right? But everybody's there'll be a buzz about them, and there'll be a kind of, wow, how did that happen type of thing. Yeah. So.
Or imagine an unknown team that plays in the NPL that plays against maybe some other teams that are known, and we present it with a better payout, more media coverage for the teams, so that that way they can not only promote themselves, but they're also promoting the league, and we present that. It's not that team. Let's say a team in the NPL wins the NPL tournament, event number 1 or whatever, and maybe they're not as well known, or people think they're as good as a team that won the NXL, but we're gonna make the public believe that they are the best in the world, because they are. Why not? They're a professional team. Professional is only a title given to you when you give somebody $3,500 for an entry fee to play in the pro league.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So It's like it can be manipulated, but the thing is we're not trying to we're not trying to pick up any. We've had teams contact us, professional teams, semi-pro teams, and divisional teams, and people that have wanted to open up franchises, and we have been, I don't want to say super selective on who we're taking it. We are obviously surprised because we didn't go out and try and reach anybody. It's kind of one of these things where it's like, hey, we're with team so and so, we're interested, and what we want to do is we want people to play paintball, and there's a lot of teams at the level of the pro level that maybe they don't get the recognition like they should, and they're playing against teams that get 3, 4, 5 times as much playing time, and because they can afford it or whatever. But we want to build the narrative. We want to build that narrative of, if you're at the pro level, man, you can hang. But let's say you can't hang with three pro teams that play year round and get paid to travel and play together all the time. Let's say that's not. That's not the case. Maybe in the NPL you have teams that are really good and play against each other. You might even have better competition and better games and better matches in the NPL because of that. Who knows?
How strong an affiliation do you feel to teams being the correct vehicle? As in, if I said to you, okay, here's 200 players or 100 players. Let's go 100, actually. Here's 100 pro players. And the format of the NPL is not team-orientated, is individual-orientated. And for round 1, we're going to draft 10-man squads. Go. So a divisional player who thinks he's got it could come on board as a rookie and be like, there's no politics in the sense of you play for whatever team, you use whatever gun, you use whatever paint, you use whatever load of goggles, etc. Right? Just rock up, bring all your gear, but you're accountable for your gear.
The only thing with that is that we can't build the story throughout the season, and even though it would be easy to follow for us because it's just a player showing up and playing, as far as presenting it to an audience or trying to get people to follow it, it's like okay, yeah, they can start following individual
Could
players.
they? Yeah, sorry to cut you off. I was just going to ask, could it be done in a similar kind of fashion to the CXBL was done back in the day, where you had these regional franchises, but the reality was nobody knew any of the players really. They were just kind of, okay, you're playing for the Toronto Chargers, and there's 3, any Hurricane players on board or whatever, right? 3 Vicious guys or whoever. I'd almost like to see franchises are available for whoever wants to pay 10 grand to be on, Netflix, let's say. Now, as a franchise owner, you are part of the draft, which in itself is, content. And that'd be great,
Yeah.
Who picks first? Who picks who first? How do they, you pick from this team? And I'd love to see, somebody like Bart own a franchise, someone like Randy own a franchise, and be picking like, I wish I could have Tyler Harmon, but he always says no to me. That type of thing. That would be insane.
Well, the reason why that wouldn't, as far as like, why it wouldn't work in the NXL?
Why it's not yet happening?
Well, because not every team there is no budget cap.
Correct.
So the teams that can go out and afford players and build these super teams can do it with nobody
stops them. There's no competition.
There's no stopping.
Yeah.
And when you have teams that are still playing with the guys that they've played before, and they're obviously good, they've made it to this step, they still can't. The super teams, it's so hard to be able to compete against that. And until I think we have that cap of where every single team that is involved, the team owner is a millionaire and can afford to pay his guys and fly his guys out and build whatever kind of super team they think is a super team. But even then, it's like, let's say there's a point system. Right? I think somebody is doing something like this, but let's say there's a point system. So you're going to tell me that I can't go play for a team that asked me to play for them because of some made-up point system that has something to do with stats or how much you think I'm worth, but then there's no transactions being made? Like, that makes zero sense.
I'm not going to tell you anything like that. I'm just going to tell you that you're not as fast as you think you are. So, and I'm coming for you, buddy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, chew them first, then kick them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is there like, it's weird, isn't it? Because the logistics of the MPL, I guess, are one of the biggest challenges in the sense of, guys have to fly in, etc. It's not going to be local for everyone, right? If it was...
But we are doing it at local fields.
Which I like.
We're holding all of our events. They're going to be at local fields. We've been talking to field owners, and I think that's going to be able to. What we're trying to also. I'm sorry to cut you off or anything, but we're also trying to bridge that gap of tournaments, tournament players, and the local fields and recreational stuff, because we wanted to be able to. Number one, I mean, overhead is going to be a lot lower if we hold them at local fields.
Right.
But what we want is we want the recreational play to be able to recognize the tournament play, and the tournament play be able to recognize and interact with the recreational play. Like, one idea that we had was having, the whole safety videos and safety presentations and everything. Have an NPL presentation of NPL pros giving safety. Whatever, you know what I'm talking about, doing a safety video for local fields. And then at the tournaments that are at local fields is interacting with people that are there and doing, maybe even doing a small clinic there, or just figure out a way to help grow the tournament side, because obviously we want paintball to grow, right? But when paintball grows, it's not like we grow as players and more players come on as tournament players. No, the industry itself and the GIs, and they grow because now people are buying more paint and this and that. What we want to do is try and grow the tournament side. So if we can get recreational players to come out and go, oh wow, I didn't know you could do this, and they're at a local field and they're having this tournament, and like,
that's
so cool,
thing, isn't it?
Yeah, because, and then they can play the same weekend.
you're actually not trying to grow the pie, so to speak. You've actually added another oven,
right?
Which is what the kitchen needed.
Mm-hmm. We want to help the local field out. We want to bring attention to the local field. We want to bring news crews out. We want it to be an ordeal. Obviously, our main thing is the show, right? The post show. But if we can start getting, if all we got to do is worry about grandstands and ordering grandstands or small stands or whatever you want, and have people show up and make it a small event and bring attention to it to help the local field out. Not only is that field going to enjoy having the NPL every year or every other year or whatever, they're going to want to help push the tournament side. If we can come up and show that, hey, we're not just some nuisance of players coming in and shooting up all these rec players and everything. If we can start at the ground level and show what we truly are and what we should be, then I feel like it's progress.
Yeah, I mean, fast forward 5 years, right? And this could be a national tour that, the manufacturers go on the road for the season. The teams go on the road for the season, and it is a 20-stop whatever tour,
Yeah, there's plenty of local fields out there.
Tons. And we get to the point where you are a professional athlete because you are employed to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and imagine the field owners. Not that they're doing a shit job, because I think there's some amazing fields out there, and then I think there's some fields that call themselves a tournament paintball field that are a lack thereof, that needs some help. But the thing is that if we can bring so much attention to the NPL and bring it into local fields, and having fields need to hold a standard to be able to hold an event like that, which is only one field. We only need one field, right? I think it will up the ante on field owners who are trying to open up a tournament side that want to maybe host an NPL tournament in the future. Now we have fields becoming better and better and better. We have less complaints from tournament players that there's this and there's that. And
I don't think they'll ever dwindle.
But I mean, let's say we all improve together. Yes,
absolutely.
Right, and that's what we want. Not that we're trying to hold fields to a standard, but it's like we're just trying to, hey man, if you do in some way hold yourself to a standard as a field, as a player, as a team, whatever, you are now, as first impressions go, it's going to be huge.
Oh, well, let's say 5 years, here's your challenge, okay? Let's have a 40-week season, 20 events. So every other week there's an event. The in-between weeks are like test events at that local field. So all the teams are in town, the testing, that would be so great to have all kinds of personalities would evolve from that, in that, this is the die tech. Yeah. This is, the Mac Dev Tech type of thing, and those guys suddenly become a personality within this sport. So, I mean, you speak to a Formula One nut, and they can probably tell you, the top 3 or 4 or 5 employees for every single team. This is the team owner, this is the head mechanic, blah blah blah. Yeah. I don't. That's the guy who wears white, and it says Williams. Is all I know. But I'm not invested that deeply in the sport, but I know guys who are. And I think it's getting to that level of not professionalism, but content whereby the personalities come through. There's nothing wrong, everybody loves a villain as well, right? The Vinnie Jones soccer character was, relentless for going in for hard tackles, and making opponents pay. There's nothing wrong with that. When he crossed the line or transitioned from grey to black, he got punished. And you're carded and you're off. And I think that's a big part of it as well. There are other guys who are, whiter than white. There are other guys who play the grey. Right. They're all very viewable for their own reasons. And it would be great as well to, add other layers of, this is how you care for your equipment. This is what you should consider when you're thinking of this equipment. Right. This is how you look after your paint, etc.
Or this is how I do it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
much like Formula One and the different tires for different conditions, that same level of consideration exists currently. It's never explained to anyone,
Right.
and how many teams have you played on where you trust one guy to go and test paint for the whole team? And he goes, oh yeah, let's use the pink and we'll shoot it through 691.
Yeah.
And everybody just goes, okay.
Yeah, and it's that guy's opinion. And let's say he shoots a Geo and I shoot an LV1. So it's like,
yeah,
all right, well, I'll shoot whatever. Because
but it's the nod and smile brigade, yeah?
Yeah.
Hey, Rich said it was okay. Let's do it. So.
But I mean, do we think all this is going to work? We don't know. And I think that's the biggest thing is we don't know, but we are willing to try. And
one thing you do know is if you don't try, you'll never know.
We'll never know. And I think that's one of our biggest setbacks in paintball is we always have like a 2-year turnaround, or even sometimes a year turnaround where we try something for 2 years that maybe was working, but because for some reason we're like, all right, well, we're gonna go. Besides the whole people always said too is like, oh, well, the true semi was true, and that only because dude, that was terrible.
That was awful.
That was
and it was the muddiest event ever. So
yeah. You know the kind of going not really off subject, but just hearing you talk, I remember because you're English, right? Are you from New England? Are you from like?
No, but
I'm a Rhode Island accent, or is that
Old England?
Oh, okay, all right.
Old England. So a Saxon type of England.
When you used to commentate for the NPPL, there you go.
Yeah, that England, the
That's
real
a nice
one.
mug. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic mug.
So when you used to commentate for the NPPL,
yeah,
there was a match we played in San Diego when I was playing for Avalanche. We were playing against Dynasty in the night.
Okay. Yeah.
And you remember that one?
Yes, I do.
And this is one of those moments where it like sticks in your head. It's when I shot Davey Williamson in the wrist, and the ref went over there and wiped him off. I don't know what
has happened. So
because I remember you talking about it, and I go back and I watched it, and I remember you going over there and going, oh, Davey Williamson getting hit in the wrist. Oh, and the ref is wiping him off. Oh, I guess it's just you're part of being Dynasty or being.
I mean, there were certainly some Dynasty fans in the reffing staff back then.
Yeah.
I always took the approach of you've got to say what you see.
Right.
If a player chooses to wipe a hit or a ref chooses to wipe a hit off a player, then there should not be a cover-up of that fact.
Right.
Especially if it's caught on camera.
Yeah.
So,
but with that, it was cut to where you couldn't see it. So the video back, you couldn't really see it because it was like
those damn editors.
Oh.
So.
But yeah. my whole point of that is that what's your favorite format? Because you've seen all of these formats, and you've seen the 10-mans, you've seen the 7-man, you've seen the X-ball.
Yeah, I think the tough question to answer in one sentence, in the sense of it's very player orientated for me. It's not just the format. You give me an Archie Montemayor against a Carl Markowski, against a Tyler Harmon, against a Kyle Spicker, and I'll watch any format.
Yeah.
You give me an Oslo Menace who would just typically lock stuff up and just play 30 minutes out type of thing in X-Ball, against another team of the same nature, and it's just a sit and wait game, I'll switch it off.
Right.
I'd rather watch ping pong. You give me the opportunity to play, and I'll take the woods every single time.
Yeah.
Because I can play that field 100 times and do 100 different things, and that to me is the essence of paintball.
Right.
I want to see creativity. That's what I really yearn out of watching it. I think there is a definite skill to people shooting fast. There's a definite skill to people being able to snap shoot, being able to run and shoot, etc. But give them the opportunity to be creative,
to do so,
and you have my attention.
I think that's where semi-pro or the semi-auto comes in. I think that's where not releasing layouts come in. I think that's where the 4 pods come in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not hung up on the 4 pods thing.
Oh, I am.
In that, see, irrelevant to me in the sense of, you're limited anyway. You're limited to how much your gun can shoot. You're limited to how much you can carry. Guys like me, we don't carry a lot of paint because it seriously slows us down as well, right? And our backs are bad. 4 pots is freaking oodles. If you can't shoot people in 4 pots, you're playing the wrong sport.
Even as a back guy, I think 4 pods is enough. But I go back and I watch matches from 2014 or 15, even recently. And guys, I saw one where Oliver was taking out like 14 pods. Going to a can. Like, that never happened ever.
That. If you choose to shoot equipment that can consume that volume of paint, good on you. Because I know you got a big ass tank, for example, and if I'm the guy who chooses not to and use a smaller tank, so it makes me harder to hit, faster, whatever the kind of rationale is behind that decision, I'm not against that at all. Use what you want in terms of paint for me, because if I'm carrying 2 pots or I'm carrying 12 pots, I'm very rarely going to run out. I'm going to play to those limits. Right. I'm going to, the less paint I have, the more certain I'm going to be of that shot. I'm not going to be the guy who rails, 100 balls at someone's toe. I'm going to actually make that bump and shoot you in the side of the head.
So there's two reasons why I think we're going that way, is because, one, you should be able to do your job in 4 pods. Absolutely. And with that, the average...
Well, you're not professional if you can't.
If you can't,
That's
exactly.
The reality.
Well, exactly.
You should be cut from the league.
And
if you run out of paint, cut them.
Right. Well, and the reason why guys did that and carried out so much paint is because they could hold a lane so easily with ramping and everything like that.
Correct.
And the second reason is because it was, the average point in an X-Ball match is like 1.5 minutes. Maybe 2 minutes, the average point. There's so many guys that walk off with 5 pods, 4 pods, 3 pods even, and
Jesus.
You could only you could only shoot so much in an average point, and if it goes a little bit longer, then okay, then it gets a little bit more dramatized.
Yeah,
because now
you're compensating for the kind of the unaverage point.
Right, and now shooting semi-auto, you can't hold a lane as easily. You have to rely on your accuracy now. You have to and having 4 pods on your back, you're like, okay, I need to adapt myself to be able to do this job. Everything looks, and on top of that, everything looks so much more uniform with everybody having 4 pods, and I think the jobs now become more important in a way where anybody can play back. Hear me out. Anybody can play back with a ramping marker. Yeah, with a ramping marker and unlimited paint. Anybody can play back. But now, if we're in semi-auto and you can only have 4 pods, who do you want behind you? Somebody who can really, truly... What?
Yeah. Guy who's accurate.
Yeah, somebody who can really, truly do that job to the best of their ability. And now, not just anybody can do the job anymore. It's like, it kind of goes back to the 7-man days. Guys had certain positions that they played. There was a reason why there was front guy, mid guy, back guy, and why they were the acclaimed back guy or front guy or this or that. But now when they say that, it's like, well, with X-Ball, anybody can play anywhere. Well, yeah, true. You should be able to play anywhere. But if we, give me 4 pods and go to a corner, I'm not a very good back guy. I can tell you right now, I don't shoot nearly enough paint to be a back guy.
I had that sneaky suspicion. You like to move. You don't stay at the back.
I like getting so close.
You can't be a back guy when you're in front of them.
You've watched me play for years, dude. You know how I play. I like getting close and sneaky. And imagine now with
a horrible back guy.
Oh, terrible! Don't people tell me to not fill a corner behind them? That's okay.
I hate to break it to you.
It doesn't hurt my feelings.
The top 10 back guys of 2018, or 17, or 16. No, you're number one worst.
Oh,
So
dude, but that's fine because
keep
you know what?
moving.
That's not my job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We want to bring back those and going back into the MPL2 where we're not going to release layouts. That brings out everything that happens at practice of you figuring out a field. We want that shit to happen on Friday or on Saturday.
I was going to say, is it going to be like what about a completely blacked out Nedding that you just cut the ribbon on like Saturday morning, 8:59, right, guys? We're starting at 9. Here we go.
So here's an idea that I had to get fans and people who watch more involved. So before each event, we are going to have players. We're going to have that whole guns up thing, and maybe we'll make our own or whatever. We'll have a different format.
I like that guns up thing. By the way,
that is very cool. Now let's say everybody has access to the guns up thing, and they have access to our bunker set, right?
Yep.
So before an event happens, 2 months before it happens or whatever, we release all the bunkers that we're going to have, which is stupid because we're going to have the same bunker set whatever through the year. But what
don't go giving these things away. People will start building now.
We have players and fans submit field layouts, and then let's say a couple weeks before, we take all those field layouts that are submitted by fans or by players or whoever, and we take it down to 10 or 20 or whatever. And now that Thursday morning, we draw a field layout.
I say no, Carl.
And we build
I say no, and I stamp my
Too bad.
fist
I'm doing
down,
whatever
okay?
the hell I want. It doesn't matter.
Because I've never been able to design a golf course.
Yeah,
I've
that's
never been
fine.
able to design an F1 track. No, do what.
Have you ever tried them?
Oh, many a time.
That's fine.
Many. You should see my back garden.
That's great.
So,
But that's the greatness about having people,
I
because
wanna-
for every one of you, there might be 5 guys who do enjoy building fields that we can choose from, because we could look at your
True.
field and go, this is stupid. But then we'll go to the next
Hey,
guy
mine
and be like,
might
wow,
be
that's actually
really
awesome. or you might be really good and you're just saying that you suck. You know what I mean? So it's like, but it's that option. It's like, imagine you're a kid or a player or a ref at a local field that enjoys building fields, right?
I almost like them not knowing what bunkers are even available. Like, the old days when we got back. When you would turn up at an event, you'd be like, there's a PMI fish. How am I going to play that?
Yeah.
There's a car wash. The first time you saw the car wash, nobody had practiced on that.
Yeah.
But everybody could play paintball. That's what's missing.
Right.
It's kind of one of my pet peeves is the fact that tournament players nowadays compete on 5 layouts a year, by and large.
Right.
The average tournament player in Europe doesn't compete in the NXL. The average in the US NXL, the average tournament player in the States will never come to Europe. It is the luckiest of the lucky who get that opportunity.
Right.
And it's either, self-financed, or they get a great opportunity that they can't pass up, and fair play to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, I'd play 40, 50 times a year, every weekend, right?
Yeah.
I'd probably play 100 times a year, because most weekends you're out there both days, right?
Right.
Now, rarely ever played the same layout twice, in the sense of, you'd be at a different field every week. You'd be, different layout, even if you're at the same field, etc. Some events you play for 2 or 3 teams in the same day.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn to play paintball.
Yeah.
You learn to play what was in front of you, and you learn to recognize there's an opportunity, I'm going to take it, And you wouldn't always take it. You wouldn't always take it first time. But over time you would learn you'd learn the art of as much as the art of shooting fast is an art and a skill, the art of reading a layout is a skill.
Absolutely.
And it's there's a lost generation currently. That's what we're battling against. We're battling against, here's your layout, get used to that for a month, practice as much as you can. Even if you can't practice on it, watch this video of how you should be practicing on it, and then go and compete on it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That little Band-Aid needs to be ripped off with all the hairs intact.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
And let's be like,
trial by fire.
Hey, learn to play paintball. And this is how you can learn to play paintball.
Exactly.
You know?
Because at its core, paintball is paintball. Paintball players will adapt.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and this is why, I mean, I'm coaching a team this season. And one of the big things that I'm going to insist that they do is actually get out there, play some woods ball, and get some unpredictability in. And it's not so much about, you know, you're behind a tree instead of an inflatable bunker.
Mm-hmm.
It's the creativity that they miss.
Right.
It's, you know, they're conditioned to one environment. They're conditioned to, you know, set field layouts, set bunker sizes, etc.
Yeah.
You know, you've not embraced paintball to the fullest until you've been stuck crawling through a bush and somebody spotted that bush move and decided to dump a loader in, and you've got to adapt.
Right.
You know.
Right.
That type of mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, this is why, and part of that bridge of how to reconnect these generations comes from classic paintball.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that bridge comes from removing the safety net of ramping. Part of it comes, you know, from not releasing layouts, etc.
Relying on yourself.
Yeah, and then you start to see a re-education of the current paintball generation, in that I think some will make very safe decisions to stick with what they know, and I think some will embrace the change and go, you know what, I'm gonna try that, because if it makes me a better player, it's you know, it's great. Currently, I think we've got, let's put it into nutritional terms. You got people who want to eat right, and they eat a salad on Sunday, and Monday to Saturday is just whatever you want.
Yeah.
And they're never gonna eat right, even though they eat right some of the time.
Yep.
Overall, they're always going to struggle.
Because fast food is easy to do.
Cheap.
Yeah. Because ramping is easy to do. To play with your friends every time you step on a field is easy to do, rather than challenge yourself and maybe walk down to the other end. And I think that right there is like, you know, I had a guy at World Cup come up to me and he goes, "Hey man, I coach a team, and I was just wondering if you had any advice on kind of like what I should do to kind of help the guys get better individually and as a team." And I was like, you know what? This is going to sound stupid, and you've probably heard me say it before. But one, have them shoot semi. Number one.
Yeah.
And don't tell them not to worry about needing to shoot fast. Have them work on their accuracy. Have them work
100%.
on, and then two is have them work on their offhand. It's like simple shit. It's like instead of you know, playing together all the time, you know, split up. Have challenge guys. You need your individual players, and who they think is a better player on the team or this or that inside the team itself. Have those guys challenge themselves in like, okay, this weekend I want to play left-handed. You know, it's simple shit. Just doing little things like that to help the individual player get more confident and become a better player. It's huge.
It's so basic as well, in the sense of, you know, I think I carried my gun in my left hand for like a year just to build up a bit of strength, you know, and you do all your drills left-handed, whatever it was. Well, you do a mixture of left and right, obviously.
And you might be more comfortable, honestly, left-handed because you did it so much, but you think you're not.
I shot more people left-handed.
Exactly.
Because subconsciously I had to try harder.
You thought it was your offhand, so you had to work harder.
Correct.
So you're probably more accurate left-handed
than you are right-handed. Fast. Yeah.
Yeah,
you do. You really do. No, I mean, there's so many cool topics within this, you know, this sport that even if we chatted 24 hours a day for a week, we'd never cover anything.
That's why I love this platform of long form podcasts. And I'm so glad that I got into it, because otherwise you and I have never had a conversation like this. Yeah. You know what I mean?
No, and one of the you know, you're talking earlier about the things you remember from like the past decades. One of the best conversations was one that we had at an event. It must have been, I don't know if it was like 2017 World Cup or if it was early in 2018. When we saw each other and we both acknowledged, you know, we had the conversation of how many times do we pass people who we know and just go, "Hey, what's up?" And everyone goes, "Yeah, hey, what's up? How are you?"
I gotta go paint now, or
Exactly.
But we've known each other for years.
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually, stopping, taking the time, how's the family, how's everything in your life as well. And one of the big things that kind of hit me like a sledgehammer was I heard it was Alex Gray on his podcast chatting to Chad Bussiere about, some mental health challenges. And I never appreciated, one, that Chad had gone through it, or acknowledged that, people really, close within my network, obviously, working for Virtua at the time, Damage was the prime sponsored team, etc. And you just kind of, it hit me like a sledgehammer of, whilst you see these guys a lot, you don't often acknowledge their individual circumstances.
Right.
And everything is just measured in success on field. Is 1% of their life, the amount of time they actually spend on the field, and we just all bypass the 99% that matters. And there's a lot of good people within this sport who want to drive it forwards and do positive things, and I think it's platforms like this allow a lot of people who wouldn't have a voice to have a voice, which is great. It's super constructive and positive.
And I'm very grateful to be able to give that to everybody and have some kind of an outlet.
No, it is. It's super interesting times, in that I don't think paintball has been at such a pivotal stage for a long time. There's so much going on this year that players will have new options. Tournament players will have new options. Players in general will have so many options, it's ridiculous. You can embrace this content, you can watch this content, you can find out about this, you can do this, you can experience this, etc. It feels like we're kind of tip of the iceberg in a lot of senses, but we have sledgehammers and dynamite, so we can get to lower in the iceberg. So it's exciting times.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Nicky, I appreciate it, man. I know I would love to talk to you more, throughout the season, and talk to you more about everything you have in store. Where can people find you and your Patreon and social media?
So I have a Patreon site set up. It's rocking and rolling. It is basically called Truternology, which is how I'm branding the content that I'm releasing. There's one monthly subscription fee of $4.99, and I aim to keep it that affordable forever. So there's so much content to still come out that nobody's ever touched upon, let alone me touching on it. So there'll be coaching content, there'll be product reviews, there'll be tournament roundups, there'll be team spotlights, all kind of Q&As, podcasts, etc. This is every single door is open. Anybody who wants to be involved, reach out and be involved, because that's what it's about. I've just done a post on PB Nation today about the whole topic and the whole platform. PB Nation are going to co-host a lot of the content, a lot of the public content, so the reviews, the Q&As. There's going to be a lot of collaborations from people both inside the industry and outside. So some world-renowned experts in the fields of things like sports optometry, which is vision, and how your brain processes, okay, this is what I want to shoot at, how do I correlate that hand-eye coordination, etc. And also mental performance. So how do you prepare for World Cup, for argument's sake? I think if you did a poll of every professional paintballer, their preparation would be very different in some respects. It may be similar in other respects. It's probably not consistent enough in areas that it needs to be. That's one end of that mental spectrum. The other end is the guys who are just getting into paintball. There's the whole nervous excitement. How do you contain that nervousness and channel it into actually efficient mental processing.
Right.
You know, how do you remain calm when you're about to get bunkered? How do you remain calm when you're about to bunker that guy? How do you
come back and play again?
Yeah. Well, this is it. Yeah. I mean, there's very different aspects, right? If you put mental performance recorders on two snake guys, one snake guy consistently breaks to the snake and gets to the 50 within 30 seconds against the other guy who consistently gets shot going to the snake, they're going to be varying so much, right? You know, now you're still a snake guy in both capacities. You're a snake guy who's performing in one, you're a snake guy who isn't in the other. How do they cope with that? You know, we know what's going through their head on one level, in the sense of there must be disappointment if you're consistently getting shot. There must be doubt in the sense of, you know, am I fast? Am I aggressive enough? Am I being too aggressive, etc.? There's doubt. But the layer that we don't acknowledge or understand is the actual mental processing that's gone on. You know, am I thinking about the right things? Has my preparation been right? You know,
am I making the right decisions on the field?
Yeah, I mean, it's on-field decision making, but it's also, have you been making bad decisions in the run-up? You know, did Rich choose the wrong paint, for argument's sake? You know, there's all of these things. So, you know, you may have smashed paint in practice the day before, and you may acknowledge that you're shooting the same paint, but it's never been discussed. How are we going to overcome this? The weather may be different. You may have slept badly. You may have had an argument with your wife, girlfriend, whoever at home. Your job may be horrible. There's so many other, you know, areas of influence that the current professional paintballers, it's not even on their radar. Let alone the guys who are out there, you know, as in, I doubt Mikey Bruno or Rennick ever had that chat with Aftershock. Of, you know, okay, Friday night, guys, let's do all the basics. So, you know, good night's sleep and all of that stuff. And yet you guys Aftershock were a professional, dominant team for decades. You know, the era of being able to just drink and have fun and go out and party and then play just because everybody else was in a worse state than you is gone. This is, you know, this is time for the kids to, and I mean that in the literal sense of, you know, people new to paintball, you have the best opportunity. If you're a clean slate and you can come in and you can embrace this challenge and go, you know what, I'm going to make a name for myself in this sport, all power to you. And everything and anything I can do to help you on that journey, you know, it's an open door. And I relish the challenge. So super exciting times, man.
Sounds great, man. And if I can help in any way, you know, even if it's, you know, I mean, that's obviously one of the reasons why I want to do this podcast with you, is be able to help spread that word and that knowledge and get it to the ones who are really interested.
I think for me, there's a couple of turning points. You know, the first, it's easy to get your friends to sign up and believe in you, having known you for however long a period of time, right? The first thing that made me think, you know what, I can make this a full-time gig and go for this, was when the first person signed up who I didn't know on the Patreon. And that was kind of like I honestly have no idea who this guy is. I don't even know how he heard of me. He's not on my Facebook friends or, you know, doesn't follow me on Instagram or anything. But he signed up. So, number one,
That's
how
awesome.
the heck did he find out about it? You know, and number two, this is freaking awesome. I'm going to send him a message. Thanks. You know, and it's kind of just being able to do that and realize that stop worrying about the 0.01% and start concentrating on the 99.9. Is going to be huge. I mean, what interests me from you personally is there's a point in this journey that's going to come probably in the first 6 months where this content will be unlike anything you've ever been exposed to as a professional paintballer. And that's the point where that touch paper is lit, in my opinion. And this makes every professional player question, wow, why haven't we sat up and taken notice of this?
Right.
Why have we never acknowledged that this is important? And this could give us the edge. Now, it's significant enough for everybody to take note of. I know, and I'm humble enough, I'd like to think, to recognize that not everybody will. Some will poo-poo it. Some will never even look into it.
Always.
You know?
Same thing with the NPL.
Yeah, and more power to the people that are humble enough to go, you know what? This could help me.
Yeah.
So super exciting times. And I think there's so many opportunities here even with the product reviews. I would love a manufacturer to turn around and go, we want you to review this, be completely brutally honest, and any areas that we can improve upon, we want to embrace and do it. And it results in better products for the players. So, and the products are good now, right?
Right.
There's never been a better time in the sense of some of the stuff we've used in the past has been toilet, you know?
Yeah.
Like we must have dealt with, we've broken thousands of paintballs. We've chopped tens of thousands of paintballs. We've had hundreds of loaders jam. We've had guns break and everything. The average, the bar has been so significantly raised over the years that you can buy a kick-ass loader for under $100 and go and play in the professional division.
Mm-hmm. Well, now a loader, and see, that's the thing too, is the loader only needs to keep up with 10.2 balls a second or 10.5. Yeah. But now we can bring on
bring back that arms race.
Exactly, bring in the arms race of whose gun actually does shoot better, whose loader does actually keep up. And there's no like, well, why would I buy a $250 loader when this $120 loader keeps up with my 10.5 balls a second?
Well, this is it. Your Formula One car isn't affordable compared to a off the street vehicle. Mm-hmm. But if you want to be the best, you've got to use it.
Yeah.
I've not seen a Ford Focus win Formula One for quite a while. So
yeah,
it's it's great. It's great, and I wish you guys all the best with NPL. And vice versa. If I can help in any way, open door, buddy.
Absolutely. It's the same way around.
100%. Well, revolving doors around here.
Absolutely. Well, Nicky T, I appreciate it, bud, and I wish you the best of luck, and I'm sure we will keep in contact and talk very soon.
Love it. Thanks, Carl.
Have a great day, bud.
You too.
Thank you again, Nicky, for taking the time and sitting down and chatting with me. It was great, man. Good luck on all of your adventures and endeavors. I really appreciate it. And a big thank you goes to our sponsors, ShockTechUSA.com, where you can find all of the sickest autocockers on the planet, all hand-built and constructed by Danny Love himself. You can also find the gunfighter frames, regulators, anything you need to build your own or have them pre-built by the man himself, Danny Love. Again, ShockTechUSA.com. Also by Charm City Paintball. I appreciate it, Mike, for all the everything that you're making, man. The headbands, the head wraps, the pack bands, everything is amazing. And I recommend everybody out there to check him out, Charm City Paintball, on Instagram and Facebook. The best quality. Everything's probably, I'm gonna say, less than 10 are made, and it's just great work, and I really appreciate it. He's a good dude, and if you haven't listened to it yet, I did a podcast with Mike. I don't know what number it is, but it's a really cool story, and how he kind of ended up here. He was in what is it? The people who knock on your door. I can't even think of the name. Oh man, it's early, but I keep thinking Mormon. Mormon is not it. It's Jehovah Witness. There it is. Anyway, check out his stuff, Charm City Paintball, on Instagram and Facebook. Give him a shout out, and he can work with you on any kind of custom stuff that you have up your sleeve. So thanks, Mike. And please, everybody, go check out my Patreon. It is patreon.com/theplayingoutpodcast. And and subscribe and donate if possible. I have a few different tiers there, but anything helps. I greatly appreciate it, and I really appreciate all the support that I've had for the podcast. You know, I want to keep bringing this to you guys, and that's one way that I've found that I can do so. So please check it out, patreon.com/theplayonpodcast. And thank you to you all for listening. It has been an amazing journey. 2018 was awesome. I cannot wait to see what 2019 holds. And yeah, it's just starting. It's just beginning. And with the new league coming in, with the moves, with the things that I have planned, it's going to be great. And I can't wait. So remember, everybody, please do not text and drive. Listen to podcasts. And I hope you all have a great January, or great day, great month, great week. All right. See you guys later, and we'll see you again here soon on the Playing On Podcast. Peace.